Hey St. Louis, Lauren Healey here with Sauce Magazine, and we're back with another episode of the Sauce Podcast. And this time we have Will Smith, who's the developer of City Foundry STL, which is the main feature in our August issue. So be sure to pick up a copy on stands around town. So Will, why don't you take us back to the beginning? Like, how did this concept for City Foundry get started?
So the very beginning was in 2015. I actually was graduating college, and my dad was visiting me in Atlanta. And right after the getting my diploma, I told him, "Hey, you got to check out this development in Atlanta called Krog Street Market, which was a food hall down there, and it just opened. And living in Midtown Atlanta, there weren't really any other food halls at that point in time, and so took him to Krog Street Market, and right off the bat thought we got to do something like this in St. Louis. So that's when the idea started. It then was a little bit later that year. We probably thought about the site at that point in time, but he and our family have been developing in St. Louis and mostly historic properties for quite a while. And so had a general sense of what properties were available and might fit kind of a unique, differentiated, architecturally significant type of space. And at some point, it just became clear, oh, it has to be the old Federal Mogul Foundry plant, which is right next to St. Louis University and the highway, and everyone sees it. But it had been vacant for almost a decade. And later that year, we approached the property, and it had a guard, and it said for sale on the side. And we said, we're interested in maybe buying it. Can we walk in?
Yeah.
And the guard said, no, you might die.
What?
Which was a little bit, it was
Ominous?
Yeah, it was ominous, but we didn't really, we didn't know, is it because it has like lead paint and asbestos, or is it because there's characters in there that might, why? But we weren't really that deterred. We actually snuck around to the back, and we found an open door and
Nice.
stuck through the chain link fence and walked in, and then I think at that point it was like, we have to do this. And that was in the summer, late summer, fall of 2015.
Why that point? Like, why, when you walked in, why did you know?
Well, many of the other food halls we'd been to, and just the spaces we'd been to, when you walk into Foundry and you walk into the food hall, you can't help but kind of look up, right, and just kind of see this incredible light-filled space. And we like to say at New and Found that our development is the foundation of our development is seeing things other people can't.
Okay.
And we saw that, and I have these photos, and actually if you're walking into Foundry and you turn left, there's a picture on the wall back from 2016 or so. It was after we bought it, but before we did anything, and the whole space is just destroyed. And but we could see that potential future.
Cool.
And I think it's been really important to us, and not just Foundry, but most all the projects that we do, that we have something that isn't only a incredible product, from whether it's the food or the entertainment or the kind of operations, but also an incredible product from a design and an architectural standpoint. And so you can't build a Foundry retail entertainment from scratch.
Definitely
today.
not.
So that's kind of when we knew we had to do it.
So you purchased the building, then what?
So we purchased the building in forget if it was right before the end of 2015 or right in the beginning of 2016, but we had an understanding of what we could do from not to get over technical and with different programs in the state of Missouri, but it was a dirty site. It had a lot of environmental contamination, and we knew how to use a specific state of Missouri program to get the site cleaned.
Okay.
Which we had to get comfortable with that part just to move forward. But we didn't have tenants. We didn't have kind of anything other than a vision when we bought it.
Okay.
But we knew that we could get it clean. And so we kind of jumped in head first at that point in time. And then from 2016 to 2019, we really were working on finding the tenants, designing the space, and building the overall program. We closed on construction financing in 2019, and then 2020 came around, and we basically almost had to start completely over because leading up to the pandemic, we were, I want to say, 65% pre-leased. And then after, 3 months into the pandemic, we dropped down to 30%. I
Oh
mean,
gosh.
we lost the Alamo Draft House corporate location
Uh-huh.
was dropped. Our beer garden was dropped. We had a Punch Bowl Social. They dropped. Our largest office tenant dropped. Half the food
Wow.
hall dropped. And so we were 3 months away from opening, and we started over in some sense, and then opened the food hall with our fingers crossed, and hoping that we didn't need to open much more than the food hall to get going. But the food hall was the first thing we opened, and we had delayed our opening from May of 2020 to August of 2021.
Okay.
So
So, what gave you the confidence to take on this huge project?
um, I would say there's a certain level of confidence that was from past experience, specifically when it came to, do we have the technical capability to design the right thing, to build the right thing, to get this financed. Um, this was probably one of the biggest projects, if not the biggest project up to that point in time across all of those different dimensions. But our firm has 40 years of design and 20 years of development experience. And so there was a confidence that we had that, like, we can get this thing built.
Okay.
And then I think there was a commitment to, there's always been a commitment that my dad has had, and I share this, to try to um, bring spaces back online, but also create spaces that bring people together. And we just felt like St. Louis doesn't have this and needs it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, people aren't raising their hands saying, "Hey, we need a food hall."
Mm-hmm.
But given what we had seen in other markets across the country, there was a belief that if you build it, they will come.
Uh-huh.
In this
And
specific
they did.
example, yeah, and
Okay.
they definitely did.
Okay.
So
Can you give just a little bit of background on like your dad and the firm?
yeah, absolutely. So my dad started the Lawrence Group in um, uh, 1984, I want to
Okay.
say, or maybe it was 85, and so roughly 40 years ago.
Okay.
And started as a licensed architect, started it with three other partners, two that were architects and one interior designer, based in St. Louis. And it's grown over the last 40 years to a national firm, and with a um, uh, many different kind of markets, from healthcare to retail, hospitality, housing, senior living. Um, and so really strong design base. And then 20 years ago, roughly, started doing development
Okay.
focused around adaptive reuse, historic preservation, and started with small stuff, started with our office, and built up. We have the On God Arts Hotel as well, which is another property that we've developed in. And so I grew up kind of in that environment,
Sure.
and we uh, I boomeranged back to St. Louis. So went to school in Atlanta, and then lived in Philly and New York and Chicago, and got taste for different kind of urban living and what can be possible in space, um, and found my way back here to basically launch City Foundry with him.
Cool.
So
Okay. So, what was the biggest challenge in putting together this concept?
the biggest challenge, I'll say the core challenge is, you're the conductor of an orchestra, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. And so you have to bring all these different parties to the table. You have to bring capital partners to the table. You have to bring all of your different design and construction partners to the table. You have to bring tenants
Mhm.
and different operational vendors to the table. And you're in a development context, everything is based off of a future vision, right? And in this case, a vision that was very dramatically different than the current state, right? This
Oh,
had been a industrial, dirty manufacturing site for almost 100 years. And here we are saying, no, 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 we're going to bring millions of people here to eat incredible food, to uh, to be entertained or to play games or to engage with one another. We're going to bring boutiques and we're going to bring national retail concepts, and we're going to future phases. We're going to build uh, apartments, and all these things are going to come together. And I think initially, I mean, there's a reason why we're called the show me state,
mm.
because there's a lot of people that I think would be like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's sounds
Believe it when we
nice.
see
That
it.
sounds nice. Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting because a lot of the convincing was honestly harder locally
Hmm.
than it was nationally, because
Interesting.
there's similar to how we were inspired by the project. There were other groups that had um, seen similar projects happen in other markets and knew that that was possible. Um, but I think there's a narrative around the direction of the city. There's a narrative around um, uh, that there's decay, and so you know show me that's actually going to
Yeah.
happen. And so um, the hardest part might be that it's just kind of continuously had to be that way, and then I would be um, it wouldn't having a retail, entertainment, food destination through the pandemic was really tough.
Yeah.
So obviously never planned for that. And
Yeah.
I think it's, almost a miracle that we made it through.
I went to some of those pod concerts
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did make it work though, and you pulled through.
I mean, it certainly has been a passion for both of us and for our team. And when you have something that a lot of people really believe in, you're going to find a way.
Yeah, so like kind of going back to the narrative around the city, like why do you think you've been able to be successful in the city where like, a lot of people are saying they want to leave,
Um,
or places like the Armory
yeah,
didn't go so well.
I think, I mean, there's things that we've tried to do that haven't worked. Like it hasn't been everything that we've done has worked well. I mean, um, it's a learning process. What's worked? Why has it worked? Let's repeat those things.
Okay.
But we haven't given up. I
Yeah.
think that's the main thing. We haven't given up on the city. And again, going back to, this identity that we have for our team and our company with New and Found, which is the development arm and the sister company of Lawrence Group, is we like to see the potential in the world, or realize the potential in the world. And it's very aspirational, right? What can this space be? What can this place be? And um, I think a lot of people have a hard time doing that. I mean, not everyone's necessarily even trained to do that. I think coming out of a culture of design and architecture, it's all about envisioning this future space. I am not an architect or a designer, but that's kind of the culture that I not only grew up in, but also the culture of our company. And so we try to do that even from how we put together our financial models, or
Hmm.
when we're trying to convince and attract and recruit tenants, kind of putting the vision in front of them to a point where they can see it themselves.
Okay. So how do you balance the local tenants with some of the bigger national spots?
That is a constant internal debate.
Yeah.
I think um, I mean, again, going back to the one of the core challenges, I think sometimes, people think that developers have a big pile of cash, and they're just taking that cash and um, putting it towards a project, and they just make a ton of cash off of it no matter what. And that's couldn't be further from the truth. We go out and we we work with banks and we work with other investors, and we have to create a vision that they believe in and that they're willing to invest in. And a lot of times, traditional investors and lenders are really concerned about what's called the credit of the tenant.
Mm,
And so if you are a national retailer with hundreds of locations and publicly traded or have a lot of cash in the bank, that tenant is going to have stronger credit
sure.
than an idea that someone has locally, and you know um and they want to, they might dump their whole life savings instead of trying to make it happen. But if it doesn't work, what funds do we have to pay the mortgage? And so we have to balance those things. And so the food hall is really interesting because we basically were able to convince our lenders and work through some creative financial structures that the food hall was going to virtually entirely be all local
Right.
small business operations.
Yeah.
And those local operators, the structure we created for them is such that we're going to try to, our incentives are aligned. We're doing everything we can to help them be successful. But if for some reason they aren't successful, it's also not going to harm us,
Sure.
in with our relationship with our capital partners. So again, took a lot of different creative approaches to, I'll say a traditional industry. And so now we're trying to find what's that right balance, because we
Yeah.
do have to have a balanced tenant mix
Do
in
you know
that
what
way.
that ratio is of local versus national?
Not off the top of my head. I mean, it's heavily weighted to local
Yeah.
right now. I will say on the entertainment side,
Mm-hmm.
it that's where we've probably gone more national, which I think has been fine. On the food side, we have been and will continue to be overweighted to local, because I think the food scene for a community is part of the culture of that community and part of what makes that community unique. And so I'm personally committed to having the food primarily be local.
Okay. We love
So
that.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So what are some of your favorite spots in there?
I was wondering if you were going to ask this, because
Can you play favorites?
that's a very dangerous question.
Lately,
I
this week.
this week. Oh gosh, I um, well, we one of the groups, and yeah, I'm having a hard time saying what I can
Okay.
around the favorites.
I don't want to get
but
you in trouble. Can I say?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. What are your
Well,
favorites?
none of the above is one of my favorite cocktail bars in town. I think it's like such a cool vibe. How did that come to be?
So I can say that's actually a favorite. I
Okay.
will say that's a favorite.
How can it not be?
Yeah. That came about in kind of a similar way to the origin story overall, where um, we saw a physical space and just knew it had to be this. We
So
saw the physical space.
I heard it was underwater when you found it.
Yes. So going back to the comment that the guard made around "Don't go and you might die."
Oh.
Um, this is full circle to that moment. So the reason why she said that was because when we walked in, there were these massive pits, and the pits were filled with water.
Oh.
And the pits were filled with scrap metal and rebar and
Oh,
all of these
gosh.
different objects that if you fell accidentally into the pits, it could not work
You
out.
could die.
It could not work
I
out that
see.
well. At a minimum, it probably wouldn't be good. There was also no light or electricity. So, as we are, the first moments in which we had walked in, we're tiptoeing around. We're like, is that a 2-inch puddle, or is that, a 30-foot,
Yeah.
pit? We made it out alive, thankfully. And it took us about 2 years to actually drain all the water out. And that's because of the way in which we were, again, working through financing and the remediation, the environmental. But after we emptied all the water out, we discovered there was this whole tunnel and pit system, and the reason for that is the machines in there would sit in these pits, and they were the way it worked was they would have sand as a function of their operation, and the sand would then fall into these pits, and then there's a conveyor belt system to basically bring the sand back up and recycle it,
Huh.
which is just kind of interesting and fascinating
Yeah.
to think about. Um, but we discovered that there was one particular space that kind of um, had this tunnel, and it's the tunnel that you go through when you
Right.
go to NoDa. And at the end of that tunnel was a somewhat large room, and so it kind of, again, we walked through the tunnel and we realized it has to be this. It has to be a speakeasy.
So you just knew.
We
So
just know.
where did that fancy door come from with all the buttons and gears?
It came from the site. We've tried to reuse as much as we possibly can. I don't know exactly where on the
What
site
was
that it
it?
came from.
And why is it, how is it still functioning? It's like flashing numbers and lights and stuff?
Yep. We had uh my uncle, who's actually, who works with us, and he is a fix-it extraordinaire. He um got it to basically be able to flash and everything. And we
So
wanted it to
cool.
be to where if someone accidentally went into that room, they'd be like, "Oh, I shouldn't be here. I got to get out."
Yeah.
What's been interesting too is we've heard of stories. It says Ajax Mechanical is the brand of the
Oh.
of the thing, and we've had people on the site that have said, "Oh, I know Ajax
Oh, really?
Mechanical. They still do stuff." Yeah.
That's cool. Well,
Yeah.
maybe they can answer my question.
Yeah,
What
yeah.
is it?
What did it originally do? I don't know.
And like they seem to always be busy. So being in an unmarked door or mostly unmarked doesn't seem to affect their business. I guess that's kind of the point.
Yeah, I think, the most powerful marketing is word of mouth.
Yeah.
And again, we've really tried to focus on delivering experiences that are different, whether
Yeah.
it's different because of the food is just phenomenal, or it's a cuisine that you've never tried before, or the space is a space you could never imagine. And in the case of NoDa, it's the whole experience of kind of going through being in the belly of this industrial foundry and feeling, and then all of a sudden kind of being transported to a
It's
luxurious,
so luxurious.
yeah,
I love it in there.
yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So let's talk
Have
about,
you?
oh,
I was gonna ask you,
mm,
have you had the NoDa drink?
which is there one that's just called the Noda cocktail? Which one?
Kind of.
What is
So
it?
I'll share a little bit of another fun story with it. So NoDa stands for none of the above, right?
Right.
And the story of getting to that name was our partner Gerard Kraft. I believe he shared with his mom a list of different naming options that we
Okay.
had kind of come up together, and at the end of it was none of the above, as
Oh,
in like none of
yeah.
those options, right? You don't like it.
Oh,
And as I understand it, she said that that's the name, right?
nice.
But it had us thinking around scantrons, right? Or like,
Oh,
in high school or college, you take a
uh-huh.
test, ACT, SAT, you fill out this bubble, and there's
Right.
always like a none of the above, right?
Right.
And so the none of the above drink is, I think it's about a 9 question scantron
Oh,
that you can fill
yeah.
out about your flavor profile and across all these different dimensions, and then they will make you a custom drink
That's
for you.
right. I need to go
Yeah.
back and do that because I'm so obsessed with the cocktail list reads really well. So I'm like I've been drinking my way through the whole list.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need to go
Well, it'd
back
be
and
hard to drink your way through that one because it's a custom one every
yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah, that would be I need to check that out on my next outing. So okay. Well, can we move on to the entertainment stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so I've done Putt Check, which is so fun. I haven't really done any of the other stuff besides Museum of Illusions. Can you tell us about like the virtual reality or some of the other
Yeah.
attractions?
Yeah. Sandbox VR. Um, so they have a bunch of different games. So I know that they have like a zombie game. They have a couple different zombie games, I believe. They actually have they've licensed with Squid Games, the Netflix
Oh,
show. So they have a
really?
Squid Games
Fancy.
game. They have a some other kind of um uh uh I think I feel like I'm blanking on all the different types of games that they have. But you can go and you get set up in a helmet, and you get sensors on your hands and on your feet, and you should go there with a bunch of friends, and you get transported into this world. I mean, it is very realistic,
So you've done
right?
it.
I have,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm like, this kind of freaks me out a little bit.
It can be a little disorienting initially, but I think it's a really great experience. It's also great that you can go back and do a bunch of different type of games, but
Okay.
um, it's also incredible to just see what's possible now, and as they introduce new games and new types of experiences, what that can feel like. So we have that, the sandbox VR, and what's
Okay.
interesting that it's in this room. They even have fans on them, and so the sensors will like buzz and the fans will blow on you, and so they're creating this kind of
Mm,
full experience. And then you go over to the escape game,
okay.
and that is like a movie production, set, right? And you feel like you're transported into one of their games, and they have like a
Okay.
prison kind of game and an underwater uh, submarine type game, and so it's an escape game, but the quality of the production is just incredible,
Neat.
and it's interesting going from like a VR type of scenario and then over to an escape game
Where
where
is
the
the
quality
escape
is.
room in there?
So it is right if you're looking at the entrance to the food hall from
Yeah.
outside,
Uh-huh.
it's just to the right. So
Okay.
and that's new. That's one of our newest
Okay,
tenants.
because I haven't seen that either. And then I
Yeah.
heard there's a game show.
And the game show is
What's
kind
with
of
that?
it's a combined concept between the game show and escape game. And so they have two game show rooms, and it's I want to say 7v7 um capacity. And so you can go down there with your family um, or friends or coworkers, and you can play a variety of different game show like games. And
Okay.
they have a live, they have an individual who kind of guides you through there, almost like the game show host,
Okay, that's
right?
fun.
And so that's kind of fun too.
Okay.
So.
Any other entertainment stuff you want to talk about?
Well, we do have City Winery as
Oh,
well.
right.
So and that's great because you can get great food and experience kind of like a great wine list while seeing different shows. And the shows are quite intimate, and the acts are usually acts that would probably be at a larger venue, but because of the concept that they have, and they have them in Nashville and Chicago and Atlanta, and so they get these great acts to come around to all their different venues. So that's great. Alamo Draft House, the movie theater, which is a very different take on movies. They have not only the dine while you're watching a movie. They describe it as 1,000-seat theater or 1,000-seat restaurant where you watch movies while
Love
you
that.
eat. But what's fun about them too is they have different types of showing. So they'll do a bunch of reruns and cult classics and bring back movies that you maybe haven't seen in a long time, and so you can have that kind of experience there. But they also have like sing along movies, so you can go see a
Oh,
musical, and it's got a whole sing along kind of component with it. And
nice.
they've got a great menu where they'll do themed menu items
Okay.
with the shows too. So that's a lot of fun. And then Museum of Illusions, which is a uh, kind of this whole experience of various different illusions
Yeah.
and not necessarily magic, although we've partnered with them on several occasions to bring magicians and
Oh, really?
illusionists to
That's
Foundry
fun.
and do some
Okay.
cool stuff there. And I'm hoping we have a bit more to share on a bigger event in the fall
Really?
around, illusions and
Oh,
magic
that's
with
fun.
them.
I took my son
So,
there and he went wild.
oh, great.
He
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's fun. We see a ton of schools coming in. We see all these school buses coming in, and they all go to Museum of Illusions.
Yeah,
So that's
it's
great.
really, it's definitely worth a visit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Any other?
what's your favorite entertainment?
I think that Putt Shack is the one that I've really experienced firsthand. I need to get out there and try all the other ones. But you know what? The thing that kind of surprised me about Putt Shack is no offense to national concepts like this, but sometimes you're not always expecting the best food and drink, but it was actually really good stuff.
Yeah,
So I had
yeah.
this drink called the Hennessy Island, which read like crazy sweet, and it was sweet, but it was actually really good and well balanced. And I was like, okay, Put Shack.
Oh,
It
that's
was
good.
good,
That's
yeah.
great to
And
hear.
it was a lot of fun, although I think there was some user error with my ball because it was like, you didn't putt all of your holes, and I was like, I swear that I did.
Oh no.
So
Well, you
maybe
might
I
have
need
to
to
go
go
back
back,
and finish
yeah.
those. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
All right. Well, so like long-term success, what does that look like for you?
Um, uh, with Foundry, I think it's we just we've established ourselves, I think, as a place where people can come and know that they can have a great time. We've been open since 2021, and so we want to be that space, for the next several decades. And so as we're thinking about, as tenants move over, the work is never finished, right?
Sure.
And it's owned locally. We're deeply committed to our community, and so we want to create a space that brings people together. We want to have a platform for both local restaurateurs and local boutiques and small business to where they can bring their concepts there. We see 2.2 million visitors a year. So if you've got a concept and, in some cases, it's around, do you have the right foot traffic? And we have foot traffic,
Oh
right? And
yeah.
so bringing together a highly curated, high quality local businesses is something that we want to continue to do, and so we want to bring new concepts, and there will be turnover and change, but we never want to lose that quality.
Okay. Now I have to ask, parking. It's crazy over there.
Yep.
Do you have like an overflow parking plan or?
Well, we did build a new deck. That deck is associated with the new apartment building, so we want to
Oh,
have more people living down there. And as we
okay.
build more housing, or we build more office, we actually have a lot of office down there right now, 100,000 square feet, which is all full, which
Oh,
has been
wow.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Um, we'll end up building more parking. So there, we're always
it's
thinking about
coming.
parking and how we
Okay.
how we bring more parking. But what is nice is there's about 1,000 parking spaces on the Foundry, the at the Foundry itself,
Yeah.
and then there's another 3,000 spaces, I'm gonna say, within 2 blocks
Okay.
around.
Like street parking or more
I
garages?
I you know I can't advertise other
Oh,
people's parking necessarily as
I
as where they
see.
should park for us, but what I can say is if you look at Google Maps, there are some very big parking lots
Okay.
right next to Foundry.
Okay.
We've consistently had this
Oh.
phenomenal event, Maze Night Market,
Oh, yeah.
and the last time we had it, we had 10,000 people on site after 6 o'clock
Uh-huh.
in on a
Yeah.
Friday night,
I've been there for those.
and
It's
it's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but people are finding where to park, right? And so I think we want to be able to address that, but we also feel like we want to create experiences worth driving and maybe spending a little bit longer than you might want to take finding
Sure.
parking, but you will be able to find it, and if we create that experience, I
I've
think,
always found it. It just takes a few minutes.
yeah, yeah.
So are you still doing the Maze night markets?
We are, yeah. We
Oh.
should be announcing or it should be announced, the next submission kind of deadline for that
Oh.
coming up soon.
Okay. How
Yeah.
often are those?
Right now they're twice a year.
Okay, I
Um,
see.
yeah.
Okay. Because was it like monthly before or something? I feel like
We
it
did
was
4 times a year,
four
was
times a
the
year.
was kind of
Okay.
the largest frequency. It obviously gets a little challenging in the winter.
Yeah, for sure.
And then depending on, when we do it during the summer and how hot it was. We did it earlier in the spring, and um that was a little wild because um it was raining during the
Oh
very
no.
beginning,
Yeah.
but people still came out.
Good.
There were people out there, some of them soaking wet, but having a great time.
Yeah.
And that actually ended up being the busiest one we'd ever had.
Nice.
So
Well, that's
the rain
cool.
didn't keep people away.
Good. Glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's talk about like what's coming up soon. So there isn't there like a play space in development?
Yes. So Urban Fort, which is one of our tenants right now,
Mm-hmm.
they currently have I'm going to say a family and kids store,
Right.
with lots of different kind of products for kids and young families. And they're building out right now a broader, larger play space. So
Okay.
you'll be able to bring your kids there to not just have a store to get them awesome gifts, but also a place for them to play and get all their energy out and everything like that. And there will be a cafe kind of component to that, and
Okay.
some light bites with that, so you can get kind of your whole experience there. And so parents can go and get a beer and get a cocktail, and the kids can get all their energy out
Good.
all in the same space.
I love that.
So yeah,
I'll be going there.
perfect.
So what else? Oh, okay. Last question. Okay. So is there anything else coming up like in the next few months to a year?
Well, we are always working on bringing new tenants and new concepts to Foundry, and we're also working on bringing new events as well. So there's a few, I'm going to say, larger artist groups we're working with right now to bring more in a larger arts program down to Foundry. So I'm
Cool.
hoping we can announce that. We're obviously going to be working on our holiday programming, and we'll have that to kind of share and
Okay.
announce. And we've got some great new food concepts that we're talking to about some of our open
Ooh.
spaces in the food hall, and then some of our open spaces in the retail. And I would say actually that if you are um, a local small business and you want to talk about space, like reach out to us, because we're always building our list of concepts. And in some cases we have very specific ideas of what we're looking for, and sometimes we're just looking for the right operator that has a really clear business plan, has a really clear audience that they're
Okay.
trying to work with. Those are the operators that we've seen have the best success, um, and and working with them to build their audience at Foundry.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you so much for stopping by.
Yeah,
Our
thanks.
August issue is going to have 12 reasons why we love City Foundry.
Perfect.
Big feature, and the photos are beautiful. So I cannot wait for everyone to see it.
Well, I'm excited for that too. I'm sure we'll have them all over Foundry, and people
Oh,
hopefully
yay.
can come and pick them up there too.
Exciting.
So
Well, thank
yeah,
you so much.
yeah. Thank you.